Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Friday. It's August the 9th. This will be our chart lesson today. And really, overall, it looks kind of like a trading range day, but we had a nice trend up, a nice trend down, then we trended up some more, and now we're trending down again. But overall, I mean, if you back out and look at the big picture, we're just kind of chopping around, even though there is a downward bias to it. So that's the way I saw it. But that's why I draw these trend channels and these trend lines. And these are fairly easy to find channels that you should be able to see. So they're not real difficult to find. But let's back out and talk about the trades. It looked like we were kind of starting out, and then we had this big rally right here. But right here, you got a failed second entry short. And let me just show you this. Back out here a little bit. But there's not a good short setup here. You don't want to be going short below that bar. This bar was bearish. Again, though, it didn't close on its low, and so there's no real reason to be going short right there. You're better off to wait and see if you don't pull up and get a second entry off the top, and that never happened. But once we bounced here, notice that now you got a new low here, first entry, pull back, second entry. So that's a failed second entry short. Guaranteed a lot of people were thinking short, so they got trapped there, and look how fast that thing raced up. And if you'd have held on to this entry around 91 at the worst, all the way to 95, 96, you could have got 5 to 6 points out of that, depending on how you played it. And that was a great setup right there. And there were 2 or 3 trades that made some really good money today, so you didn't have to trade very long. I got an email from a couple people that were done by 9:30, 10 o'clock today, and I can understand why, because there were some really good moves. And then guess what? You don't want to be going long till you get a good setup. There's no setup till possibly right here. There was a second entry long right here, but I didn't like it because it's looking like this might be a trading range day, and you can see these highs right in here. So I just thought it was dangerous going long right there. If you did take this, you got plenty of chances to get out, and you should have taken it. But once you got your trend line kind of coming down through there, and you had this failed second entry long, and that's just the opposite of what we had here. Notice you got a new high, first entry, pull back, second entry. So a break below, that's a failed second entry long, another trap, and boom, look at that. They trapped everybody. They trapped everybody down to the short side and ran their stops, and they trapped everybody to the long side and did the same exact thing. And then you got a little pullback right here. Notice there's the first entry, pullback, second entry, but again, no good setup, and then by that time you got all the overlapping bars, so just wait. What you really want to do is, and this is a good learning example, there's several of these today. Notice that even though there's some breaks to the downside, there's only one move up, and usually you want to see the market try something twice, and that didn't happen till right here. So that's where you wanted to go short if you took this. And if you did take this, you wanted to use a limit order. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll drop it back even to where the close was, and you see that would have got you in perfectly, and then it drops down. And you're looking for another leg similar to this one, and it's pretty close to being a measured leg there. One leg down, 2 legs, so it missed it by maybe a tick, being a perfect measured leg. But you got a little double top at the EMA. If you didn't take this one, no big deal. But I really like that setup because of the little double top and the little just quick trap right there. It took a minute to work it down. But again, I would use a limit order here. You could have used a stop and you wouldn't have had any troubles, but it's risky taking a stop below a bunch of matching bars like that. So that's why I say a limit order. Now this one, I actually took this short. Again, it's a 2-legged pull back to the EMA, and it's got a nice little tiny bar that lets you get in up here high. But if you entered this on a stop, it was a 4-tick failure. And so it made me a little nerve-wracking. When it turned up right here, it broke up first and it backed up a little bit, and I exited with a tick, and thank goodness I did. And the reason is because notice where the trend line is up here. We weren't back to it yet. So that led me to believe, hey, we're going higher, and we even went a little bit higher before we finally got that next turn down. And this is another one where you just use a limit order, drop it at the end. You could have used a stop, but that's the first break. and you got a couple of legs up here, so you don't know that it's going to do this. I have no idea it's going to do that, but it takes off, and that's why we hold runners right there. And you can see how good those runners, you know, they go all the way back down to the lower side of the trend channel, and then we get another little bounce. I didn't like entering right there on the first entry, just like same reason here, although that is a much better setup bar. If you're aggressive, you might have traded that. And the reason is, I think there's, I don't have it on here, but I believe there's like a, you know, our typical median line in here that's like halfway, and you can see that. Should have had that on there. I had it there earlier, but I removed it. And that's turning down right off of that. But when we came back and tested it again, there's, you know, now you got two tries to go higher, and that's really a second entry short. And you got room down here to your line, and look, it takes off, and it even breaks through and overshoots it. Again, you don't know that it's going to do this, but hey, that's why we hold runners. And so all of these trades right here, you had easy runners. Even this one was good for a couple of 3 points there. But this trade and this trade were great entries. And then you're coming back. But notice how we overshot this. Anytime you get an overshoot and then you start rallying, you got to be careful, because that's one of the few times that you don't always come back and make a new low. That might lead to a temporary reversal that lasts longer. So be careful on those overshoots. But notice you got a first entry right there, and then you really got a second entry short right there, but there was just that little gap, and this ended up kind of overlapping. I didn't feel like it was worth going long right there. So you might have gotten trapped both ways there. You shouldn't have got trapped to the downside, because there's not really a setup. And the fact that it broke lower and then it took the next bar to go higher, then you got three overlapping bars. A break above that bar, I might have been interested trying to enter with a limit order, but it never triggered that, so I didn't like that. And then next thing you know, it's turning down. So I like going short right there. And you got an easy scalp, nothing more, and then it bounces again. And I didn't like going long there either, because it's back inside that trend line, and you know, we could have easily ticked higher and turned down. It did go higher, but notice that lower low than this low, so you got a new swing low. First entry, pull back, second entry, and look at that reversal right off the EMA, right off the trend line. And I got this trend line by drawing it off these highs first right here, and then I just drug it down. I originally had it right up through there, and we kind of had an overshoot, so you shouldn't be surprised to see an overshoot down here. Just like you had an overshoot here, look at the overshoot there. That's when you need to expect that. And but we overshot it, and then we overshot it to the downside. But then there's that failed second entry short that reverses, and that's another one of those traps. And it took a little bit, but man, it worked on higher. And you pull back and look at that reversal bar right there, off the trend line again, and it comes back and tests it yet again. So there's a long right there, another easy scalp. It was tempting to go long right here, but we did have this break down here, and I'm glad I didn't go long there, because it did fail and it turns down, and then I was done for that. I just called it a day. By that time I was done. It was after lunch, and so I was done for the day. But you know, that would have been tempted to go long. Other than it's so big, you would have had to, you know, I wouldn't have wanted to get in unless I could get in maybe way down here, and I don't know if you'd have got filled. And even then, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, it would have worked if you got filled halfway down. There's really a nice short right there, because it's coming off that trend line. Then you go back to the other side, and it looks like they, you know, then it's getting really dangerous. And that's why I don't like to trade in the afternoon, because if you make a mistake, you don't have time to recover. You can make a couple of mistakes in the morning and no problems. But hopefully, you know, talking about this trade right here, hopefully you see that we weren't back to the trend line. And, you know, I still liked it, but, you know, once it turns back up like this and it's working higher, you know, get out with what you can. Take a tick or two, or take a break even, or maybe even give up a tick. Trust me, it's a whole lot easier to get a tick or two back than it is to get back a point or two. So don't, you know, at the same time, you got to be careful. because I hear just the other problem from people all the time is that they get shaken out of good trades. Like right here, you might have entered right there, and then it's backing up and you shakes you out, only to see it go exactly so. So you know you got to be able to read the price action. Otherwise, just put your stop right up, you know, a tick above that, and if you get stopped out, you get stopped out, and you lose what? 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks. You lose a point there, but don't give it 2 points. That's the key. But if you had these lines right, you should have been assuming it would pull back and test this line when it went through, because that's like a support resistance line, and then it goes higher, and you're just waiting for a setup up here. It actually got through there, but you're still looking for a short right there if you get a good setup. So but you know, it's the MO lately has typically been early on it sells off hard and then it rallies hard. So I mean, it really took them a long time to kind of work this down right here, even though it's still working down. People just want to buy this market. Don't ask me why, but they love buying this thing. So it's like they sell it off and beat it down to a good price every day, and then they start buying it. And, you know, they'll do that long enough to get you used to it, and then they'll do something different. So don't count on that every day. But that's kind of been the MO lately, and you can see that yesterday. Look at that big sell-off, and then they just rallied it like crazy. Same thing here. The day before that, they sold it off hard, and it rallied crazy. They're just not, you know, when it gets down there, look at there. The day before that, they sold it off hard, and it didn't rally as much, but it bounced, you know. So, you know, they just don't want to sell this market. And there's too many people that want to buy it, and when they perceive there's some value, every time they sell it off, they perceive it as at a value level, I guess, and they start buying it again. So just be careful. But I hope you had a good week, a good trading day. I'm going to wrap it up. It's Friday. I'm getting out of here, and we'll be back to do it next week. So this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.